It was another dull day at work. I was buried in spreadsheets, eager for the moment I could leave and go home to my wonderful wife, Carly. We had been married for 3 years this August, and I believed we were a great couple. I am Davy, and I work for a large engineering company as the new chief technology officer, while Carly is a marketing manager for a health food brand. We have a nice life, a lovely house, good cars, and vacations twice a year. We also plan to start trying for kids in the next year now that my job felt stable. Carly and I met 5 years ago through mutual friends, Jenny and Steve. Jenny wanted to find the right woman for me, and she introduced me to Carly, who she knew from university. Although they were in the same classes, they had different friends and didn't hang out much. Jenny described Carly as someone who could be a little reserved but fun once you got to know her. Our first date was a double date with Jenny and Steve, and Jenny made a big effort to help us connect, which honestly felt a bit overwhelming. In the end, I asked Carly out again, but without Jenny hovering over us. From our conversations, I discovered that Carly enjoyed the simple things in life. I planned a picnic for our first real date, which was trickier than it sounded. Fortunately, the date went well, and Carly seemed to warm up to me, so we set up a second date for the next day. By our fourth date, we were nearly inseparable, and I could see myself growing old with her. Within 18 months, we were married and enjoying our life together. We both worked and had a good amount of spending money, so we loved to make the most of it. It was common for us to send simple messages on Friday mornings like, "Weekend trip booked to?" Paris, Prague, or Madrid were our favorites. Flight at 8 p.m. From the start of our relationship, being with Carly was amazing. We clicked really well, enjoying each moment together and discovering what we both liked. Even after we got married, there were weekends when we would stay in, relaxing together without wanting to leave our cozy space. Just a couple of months ago, after my promotion, we spent another weekend embracing each other, feeling comfortable and happy. When we were together, everything felt right. But today changed that. I had been looking at a spreadsheet for an hour when my focus drifted, and I started to daydream about Carly. Just then, a knock on my office door pulled me back to reality. "Hey, you still with us?" joked Andy, one of the senior engineers I worked with. Before my promotion, we had been close friends. I smiled and replied, "What's up, Andy? Not busy?" Andy came into my office and sank into the chair across from me. "I was browsing online last night and found a video of a woman who looks just like your Carly." He pulled out his phone and showed me the video. I intended to hand it back to him, but I froze when I saw the woman. My heart sank as I realized it wasn't just someone who resembled my wife. It was Carly herself. Andy took the phone back, grinning. "Can you believe it? She looked just like Carly. I almost didn't respect your relationship and watched more." I nodded slowly, not fully processing what he had said. "Hey, could you send me that?" I asked in shock. Andy laughed and said, "You want to spend some time with your wife's twin?" I sat alone at my desk, watching the video again. Carly appeared on screen, and I recognized a distinct heart-shaped mark below her right breast. It was the same mark I loved on her. I lost track of time, staring blankly at my phone. Then there was another knock on my office door. Julie, my assistant, stopped by to ask if I wanted a sandwich for lunch. I looked up and shook my head. My thoughts returned to the video, and I felt a wave of sadness wash over me. The realization hit me hard. Carly had been unfaithful, and I didn't fully understand what that meant yet. I knew I couldn't confront her until I had all the facts. I could see from the video I had that it looked pretty recent, based on her hairstyle and body shape. But I wasn't sure if it was a one-time thing or if there were more videos out there. I left the office telling my boss I felt unwell and drove the 30 miles to my cousin Mike's workplace. He started his own business after leaving the Army, where he worked in intelligence. He never shared much about his job, but he liked to quote a famous film, saying he had a very particular set of skills. He ran a business focused on helping large companies with their online security, but he also did investigation and research work. I knew there were parts of his business he kept private because he was always busy with the number of people he employed. As soon as I parked, Mike came outside. He had seen me arrive on the security cameras. He smiled and pulled me into a hug, saying, "Brother, what's going on?" I asked if we could go somewhere quiet to talk because I needed his help with something. He walked me through reception and told the receptionist to get us coffee, especially the strong kind. We went to a small room filled with monitors on one wall and a conference table in the center. The coffee came almost right away, along with a bottle of whiskey. Mike poured some whiskey into glasses and handed me one along with my coffee. "Okay, talk. What's the big problem?" he asked. I handed my phone over to him and sat still while he watched a few seconds of the video. "Do you think this is Carly?" he asked. I shook my head. "I know it is. Look at the birthmark under her right breast." I explained how I got a copy of the video and that I needed to understand more before I did anything. Mike looked at me seriously. "Davy, I know you better than anyone. Do you really want to stir things up? Right now, you only know that this happened." He gestured to my phone on the table. "Do you really want to know everything?" I slowly nodded. "I need to know. I can't move on because I keep imagining all kinds of scenarios. Right now, I don't see a future for us. It's clear for everyone to see, and it shows that she has been unfaithful to me." Mike nodded and said, "All right, give me a couple of days. I will come back with a report on everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly." I thanked him and started to leave. He asked, "What are you going to do now? I have an extra room if you need it." I shrugged and replied, "I don't know. I might just go home and pretend I'm sick for a few days to avoid her." Mike laughed and said, "With the way you look right now, you won't have to pretend much." After leaving Mike, I drove for a while. I soon realized that my plan to fake being sick would not work because Carly would want to take care of me, which would probably make it harder for me to handle everything. I pulled over and called my boss, Jim, who had been a good friend for a long time. I shared a shorter version of the facts and told him I needed a few days off, asking him to say I was away visiting a client to help with a problem. While visiting clients was not something I usually did, it could happen when a big client needed extra support. He assured me he would come up with something and told me to take as long as I needed. I got home just after 4 p.m. and hurriedly packed a few clothes and my important documents to show that I was away for a few days. I left the house and parked a few streets away to call Carly. Her phone rang 3 times before she answered. "Hi, baby. I was just thinking about you and what I want to do with you this weekend." "Hi, honey. I'm sorry, but there's been a problem at work. I'm on my way to Glasgow to see one of our biggest clients." "What? This weekend? Why you? Why not someone else?" "I don't know. All I know is they called Jim and insisted I go up there to help fix it this weekend." Jim said I needed to leave tonight and stay until they are satisfied. "I'm really sorry, but I promise I will make it up to you when I get back." "Oh, baby. I had planned to have a relaxing weekend since we didn't have anything to do." "Well, that's disappointing. Will you be home before you go?" "No. I'm sorry. Jim let me leave early and told me to grab my things and get going. I just left home and am about to get on the motorway. I'll call you in the morning when I know more." Carly tried to keep the conversation going, but I could feel my frustration building, so I ended the call by saying the signal was bad. I sat for a while, trying to calm down after the call. The person who usually comforted me was now the one causing me pain. I arrived outside Mike's home and was greeted by his wife, Alana. She hugged me and told me that Mike had called her to expect me. A couple of hours later, Mike came home with beers and pizza. As he walked in, he cheerfully said, "I don't know about you two, but I'm ready to eat junk food and drink." That night, we didn't talk about my marriage at all. Mike and Alana skillfully kept the conversation light, avoiding any subjects related to my issues. I struggled to sleep and was sitting at the kitchen table when Alana came down. She kissed the top of my head and mentioned that Mike was already at work looking into my situation and hoped to have an update later. After a strong cup of coffee, I decided to message Carly. I really didn't want to call her, so I typed, "Hi, I got to the hotel late last night. I'm about to head into the office and can't take calls because it's a secure building. I will try to call tonight." I turned off my phone and tried to focus on normal activities to distract myself from what was happening with my marriage, but it didn't help much. Alana tried to take me shopping, but even she got tired of my downcast mood. Just after 4 p.m., Mike came back from the office with a serious look on his face. "Davy, we need to talk, but you should be ready for it." We sat at the table, and Mike explained what he had found. It seemed things started with Carly when she was in college, where she was in 4 films to help pay for her expenses. Mike discovered that she hadn't done anything again until 18 months ago when she lost her job due to downsizing. I had no idea about this, and there were no signs. It looks like she returned to making films to earn money while searching for another job. I think she didn't want to tell you because she felt embarrassed. Since then, she has been in 5 films, and I have the details if you want to know," he said. I simply nodded, feeling I needed to understand the situation fully. In the 5 films she was in since we got together, she has been in 12 different scenes with 15 different men and 7 different women. The most ironic scene was about a woman who cheated on her husband with 3 men until he caught her and joined in. Although it wasn't funny, I found myself laughing. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was almost manic as I processed the level of betrayal and disrespect my wife had shown me during our marriage. I tried to avoid her calls all day on Sunday. The idea of talking to her made me feel sick, and I knew I couldn't keep pretending. Instead, I sent her a message late that night. "Sorry, I was at a client's office all day and couldn't use my phone. I should be done in the morning and will drive home around 7 p.m. On Monday morning, I went to see a family lawyer named Mike who had set it up for me. I spent an hour sharing my situation and getting divorce papers ready. By early afternoon, I returned home to prepare for what I knew would be a difficult evening. I packed my clothes and important things and took them to a storage locker I rented that morning. At 5:45 p.m., I sat in the living room when I heard her car in the driveway. I started playing a video on my laptop to show on the big TV across the room. Carly came in excitedly but froze when she saw the video. She stared at the screen for a moment before fainting. A small part of me still cared, so I picked her up and placed her on the sofa. I went to get her a glass of water, and when I returned, her eyes were open, filled with fear. "I'm so sorry," she said. No excuses offered. I sat in an armchair and paused the video, feeling a mix of emotions at the image of my soon-to-be ex-wife looking horrified. "Can you turn it off?" she pleaded. "I think we'll keep it on for now. Let's skip the part where you say it only happened once or before we were together. I have 5 recordings from after we got married and 4 from your university days. This is not just about the content. I've seen that kind of material before, so that's not the issue. The main point is that since we've been married, after you promised to be faithful, you have been unfaithful with 15 different men and 7 women." She shook her head and said, "It wasn't cheating, it was only work. There was no enjoyment. I would never cheat on you." Feeling anger rise, I tried to keep my voice steady. "Did I know about any of this?" I asked, glaring at her. She lowered her head and shook it slowly. "Did I give you permission?" Again, she shook her head. "Did you really think that if I had known, I would have let you be with all those people?" She shook her head again. "But you still did it. That is cheating, plain and simple. It doesn't matter if it was for work. I wouldn't have allowed it." I stood up and started pacing. I needed to keep my anger in check, or I might do something I would regret. The pacing helped me regain some control, and the silence gave me time to think. Finally, Carly spoke in a soft voice. "I have no excuse for what you saw, except that it was just a job, a way to pay my bills. There was no enjoyment in any of it." I responded, "If it was just a job, why did you keep it a secret? I know the truth." Through her tears, she said, "I am more sorry than you will ever know. I love you more than anything, and I don't want to lose you." Please tell me what I can do to make this right. I slumped back down in the chair, shaking my head. You are sorry I found out, not for what you did. Do you want to know how I found out? Andy at work showed me a video of someone he called a Carly twin. How do you think I felt knowing it was my wife? She curled up into herself, repeating, "I'm so sorry," over and over. I couldn't look at her, the woman I once adored. I sighed heavily. I don't think there is anything you can do to fix this. Even if you say there was no enjoyment, I doubt it. From now on, I will always wonder if I am enough for you. I cannot compete with them. I sat in silence for a while. I need to leave. Right now, I can't see a future for us. I don't know how to move past this and feel comfortable being close to you again. I'm sorry. I stood up and walked to the front door, hearing a soft sound from the sofa as the door closed behind me. I went to stay with Mike and Alana that night, needing time to think about what I should do next. One thing was clear. There was no chance for us to reconcile, at least not anytime soon. I woke up early and turned my phone back on, expecting a few missed calls from Carly. However, I was shocked to see 30 missed calls, 40 messages, and 10 voicemails. Not wanting to turn my phone off again, I sent her a message. I need time to think. Please don't call me again. I will let you know when I am ready to talk. Then I called my boss, John. Hey, John, I need some time off to deal with a personal issue. Can you manage without me for a week? Davy, of course. What's going on? Is there anything I can do to help? I can't discuss it right now, but maybe we can get together for a drink soon and I'll explain. Take all the time you need. Just make sure someone is available to handle anything important while you're away. Thanks, John. My next call is to Sarah to let her know what needs to be done while I'm gone. I called Sarah and informed her I would be out of the office for a while. I gave her a summary of the important tasks she needed to take care of. She told me to reach out any time if I wanted to talk or grab a drink. I knew Sarah had feelings for me and would be interested if I started dating again after my divorce. I called John back. Hi, John, you mentioned I could ask for help? Yes, anything you need. Well, could I be a bit bold and ask if your cottage is free right now? I just need to escape for a few days to think. Of course, use it for as long as you need. Just come by the office to pick up the key. I'll leave it at reception. 4 hours later, I was driving down a narrow road to a cottage in the middle of nowhere, completely alone for miles. I spent the next few days in quiet solitude with only a few books, some whiskey, and plenty of time to think. The first night I drank almost a whole bottle and regretted it the next morning, so I decided to only have whiskey for its calming effect from then on. I spent hours walking in the hills around the cottage, letting the peaceful surroundings wash over me. On the fourth day, I made a decision and prepared to call Carly to share it. She picked up before the first ring. Davy, where are you? I've missed you so much. Please come home so we can talk. I interrupted her. Carly, I'm sorry, but I can't continue like this. I can't move beyond what happened. When I close my eyes, I see you with others. It's hard for me to forget the pain and deception. I still love you, but I can't shake this hurt. I wanted you to hear it from me first. You will be served in the next few days. I want a divorce. I pulled the phone away from my ear, startled by the pain in her voice. My heart sank, almost breaking my spirit, but I had to stay strong. Carly, I'm sorry, but I see no other option. I have lost all trust and my heart is broken. I don't think I can ever love again, and I know deep down that I can't stay married to you. You can keep the house and we will split the bills. I am truly sorry for hurting you, but I don't want anything. I only want you. Please don't do this. I'm begging you, she cried. I knew if I stayed on the phone any longer, I would change my mind and trap myself in pain again, so I ended the call and turned off my phone. Carly tried hard to delay the divorce, even asking for counseling sessions, which she got. I had to attend 10 meetings before any progress could be made. I went to the first session, which was just me and the counselor. She told me she had already spoken to Carly. Mr. Hassel, is it okay if I call you David? She asked. My friends call me Davy, but you can call me Mr. Hassel, I replied. Okay, Mr. Hassel, I sense some anger from you. Why do you feel that way? Maybe it's because my soon-to-be ex-wife hid her career from me and expects me to just accept that she was with many others. I want to move on, but she seems to want to pull me back into her chaotic life. Please try to avoid harsh language in here. It doesn't help create a positive space, she said gently. I'm not trying to be rude. I just don't know how else to express what she did. It's not just ordinary intimacy. How should I describe it? To say the session got worse from here would be an understatement. The counselor ended our talk after just 30 minutes. Mr. Hassel, I see you are in a lot of pain, but these meetings will be more helpful if you are open to the idea of fixing things. It's not easy, but it is possible. I looked at her nameplate and said, Ms. Jones, since you use Ms., I can guess you're not married anymore. My personal life isn't part of this discussion, she replied. I'm just curious. If you're divorced, what kept you from making it work? Given your knowledge of my situation, what makes you believe there's a better chance of fixing things than in your case? The counselor opened her mouth to reply, but paused, then gathered her thoughts. Mr. Hassel, I think we have reached the limit of what we can discuss today. Our next session will include Carly, so please try to be positive and open with her. Ms. Jones, I promise I will remain positive, but my feelings will not change, and there isn't anything that can change that. I stood up and walked out of her office, feeling my frustration rising at the idea of seeing Carly again next week. Since drifting apart from Carly, I had thrown myself into work. With little else to keep my mind busy, I focused on projects, and my team struggled to keep up with my pace. I had also been spending more time with John, my CEO, and his wife Trudy, along with some other friends. It seemed that my situation called for a group of friends to lift my spirits. I was invited to many dinners, barbecues, and game nights. I tried to join in, but my heart wasn't in it, so I often left early to be alone. One evening, I was in John's study, enjoying some fine brandy, when he asked how things were going. I realized I had only given him a cleaned-up version of the truth, so whether it was the brandy or just the need to vent, I shared the full story. When I finished, I saw his eyes wide with shock. I can't believe Carly would do that. Are you sure it was her? I nodded. Yes, and she hasn't denied it. Oh no, are you thinking about trying to work things out? I shook my head. John, I can't. I just can't get past what happened. John put his hand on my shoulder. I understand. I don't think I could either in your shoes. After a moment, he chuckled. Well, when it's all said and done, you won't lack for attention from women. I laughed a little. Yeah, right. Come on. Are you really that unaware? Everyone knows at the office that you're going through a tough time in your marriage. Haven't you noticed the increase in female callers or the shorter skirts around you? You're quite the topic, my friend. Many women at work would be eager to date you. Oh, really? Like who? This is just gossip, but I've heard Elizabeth say she'll be after you as soon as your divorce is final, and Olga is rumored to have plans to keep you warm in her own special way. There is Jane, Kelly, Sam, and even Marjorie who had talked about you. I laughed hard, but quickly stopped. It didn't matter anyway. I think Carly has affected me deeply for a long time. I will always wonder what someone is hiding from me, and I'm not sure I will even try to look for a while. I feel too hurt and broken. I know I need a lot of healing. Well, just be ready and maybe get a personal alarm. The day of the next session came. I wanted to spend as little time as possible with Carly, so I decided to wait in my car until 10 minutes after the session was supposed to start. This worked out well because Carly was already in the counselor's office when I was called in. Ah, Mr. Hassel, I didn't think you would come. Sorry, I stayed in my car to avoid any awkwardness while waiting. Understood. Let's get started then. Carly, why don't you begin by telling your husband what you hope to achieve in these sessions? Carly was about to speak when I interrupted. Excuse me, but can I save us some time? I know Carly wants to keep me as her husband, but that can't happen. I can't look at her without seeing memories of her with others, and that worries me. I still care for her, but I don't see how anything we do here will erase what I now think about my wife. I feel ashamed and scared someone might see something that connects me to her past. Carly ran out of the office in tears while I waited for what would happen next. The counselor watched me for a moment. Mr. Hassel, you have been deeply hurt. I don't think continuing these sessions will help. I will recommend to the court that your divorce is granted, but only if you agree to individual therapy. Until you deal with what has happened, moving on will be hard. 2 weeks later, the divorce was granted, and I started my court-ordered therapy sessions. I had to complete 10 of them. At first, they were really tough, and I didn't see any progress, but slowly I began to open up. Eventually, I completed 30 sessions and reached a point where I was no longer angry, only saddened by the loss of my love. After my divorce, I tried dating a few times to please my friends who kept trying to set me up. However, none of the dates went anywhere because I constantly compared them to Carly, who I thought was my perfect match. This made me really mad for a long time. Eventually, I realized I had lost my soulmate, but the failure was hers. Although I still thought about her, I knew I was better off without her. About 2 years later, Mike invited me out for some beers, saying we never hang out anymore. Just 10 minutes into our drinks, he seemed deep in thought. I pushed him, saying, "Come on, Mike. I can tell there's something on your mind." He focused on his drink and then said, "Alana and I are having a party next month for our 10th anniversary, and we would love for you to come." I patted him on the back and replied, "Of course he'll be there. Why are you so nervous?" He hesitated before explaining, "Well, after your divorce, Alana reached out to Carly just to see how she was doing. She got really worried about her. We didn't tell you then, but Alana found out Carly was struggling with some really tough thoughts. Thankfully, Alana got her the help she needed, and Carly is doing better now. They've become close friends. The thing is, Carly will be there." Mike looked at me sadly and said, "Davy, you are my best friend. It would mean a lot to me if you could come, but I would understand if." I placed my hand on his shoulder and assured him, "Mike, it's been 2 years. I'm not angry anymore. I believe I can be in the same room with her and be okay. I'd still love to come." He sighed with relief and relaxed. "Good. Was that the only reason you wanted a night out, or did you actually want to hang out with me?" I teased. Mike laughed. "Now that I know you're all right, we're all set for a full night of fun." The party was at a fancy hotel outside of town. I decided, like many other guests, to book a room so I could enjoy myself without worrying about getting home. While I was at the bar chatting with Mike's brother Dean, I felt a gentle tap on my shoulder. I noticed Dean's eyes widen as he turned to someone else. I turned around to see Carly standing in front of me. I was shocked. It had been 2 years since I last saw her. I felt no anger or hate, just surprise and a hint of happiness. Carly had always been the most beautiful woman in the room to me, and despite everything, I felt those old feelings stir a bit. She looked up at me with a nervous smile and said, "Davy, I just wanted to." Well, what I wanted to say was, I smiled back. "You look good, Carly. How have you been?" She looked relieved but exhausted, so I guided her to a nearby table and sat down with her. Her eyes glistened with tears as she took a moment to gather herself. "I'm sorry, I'm just a mess. I was really nervous about seeing you tonight after everything. I just wanted to say hello and check on you. I understand if you don't want to talk to me." Suddenly she stood up to leave, but I gently held her hand to stop her. "Carly, please sit back down. There's no need to go. I'm not the same angry person I was 2 years ago." I took a deep breath. "I've done a lot of thinking and trying to heal, and I want you to know that I have forgiven you. I truly hope you are doing well." Her breath caught in her throat as she broke down crying and ran away, leaving me sitting there alone. Alana came over quickly. "What did you say to her?" "I just told her I forgive her," I replied. Alana's eyes widened. "Well, that would do it. Thanks, but you sure know how to make an entrance." She kissed my cheek and dashed off after Carly. About an hour later, I was outside getting some fresh air when I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned to see Carly smiling and holding 2 glasses of whiskey. She handed one to me and took a sip from the other. "I'm sorry about earlier. I just never thought I would hear you say those words to me. It all got too much." "Don't worry, I was nervous about seeing you too," I admitted. She looked sad, so I added, "I didn't mean it like that. I just knew it would be tough, and until you tapped my shoulder, I wasn't sure how I would feel when I saw you." Her smile returned, though it was shy. "So, how did you feel when you saw me?" I shook my head. I was surprised, not so much by what I felt, but by the lack of anger or resentment. It was unexpected. Her eyes filled with tears again. "Oh no, here I go again. I've been struggling since you left. It's hard to keep it together." I gently wiped away a tear with my hand. I think it's time we talked. I couldn't before because I was so upset, but now I'm ready to listen. She nodded, her face lighting up. I would love that whenever you want. Before I even thought, I blurted out, "How about now?" Then I realized I should have checked first. "Oh, sorry, did you come with someone? I don't want to keep you from a boyfriend." She laughed. "Oh no, definitely no boyfriend. Sorry, I got a bit carried away there, but there hasn't been anyone else but you." I nodded in agreement. I mean, I have tried, but... We walked back through the party toward the exit when suddenly, Mike and Alana blocked our way. "And where are you two headed?" Alana asked in a serious tone. "Relax. We are just going somewhere quiet to talk," I replied. Alana smiled. "Well, as long as that's all you're doing." Carly looked embarrassed, grabbed my hand, and started to leave. Alana placed a hand on my shoulder and said softly, "Please be gentle. She is still very sensitive." I looked into her eyes and nodded before being led out of the party. We found a quiet spot in the bar, and the silence felt loud after the noise of the party. After the waiter brought our drinks, I took a sip and quietly said, "I'm sorry I wasn't able to listen before, but I am now. Why don't you start at the beginning?" Carly was quiet for a moment, gathering her thoughts before she began telling me about starting university. She was the first in her family to go, so there was a lot of pressure on her to do well. Her parents were not wealthy, but they made too much for her to get much help. She took out student loans, but with no other support, she found herself working more than studying. I knew she had a bold side, and she shared that while looking for extra work, she came across an ad for an actress. The pay for one film was enough for her to avoid working for a couple of terms. She thought, why not? You only live once. She impressed the director and producer so much that they offered her more roles, enough to fund her entire year. I shared a knowing look with her and she shook her head. No, it wasn't like that. I did perform with one of the main actors, but not with the director or producer. The next year, she didn't look for part-time work. Instead, she reached out to the director again to see if any films were coming up. 2 weeks later, she was starring in her second movie, which again covered her expenses for the year. She followed the same plan for her final year, but took on another film toward the end. The money from that helped her until she found a job after graduating. At that point, I noticed our drinks were empty, so I went to the bar. This gave me some time to think about what she had just shared with me. I didn't feel the same pain I had before. Maybe it was because what she did happened before we met. Or maybe I could finally see the reasons behind her choices. I came back with our drinks and sat quietly, waiting for her to continue. When she didn't, I asked, "Okay, I understand what happened at university and why you made that choice. What I don't get is how you got back into it." Her eyes looked teary as she shook her head. "Wow, this is harder than I thought. I've practiced how to tell you this so many times, but now that you're here, it all feels pointless." "Well, you've waited this long, so just start and let's see where it goes. I can't promise I won't get upset, but I'll try to stay calm." She nodded and took a deep breath. It all began a few years into our marriage. I had been so happy to get my job after university, and when I got a promotion, you were thrilled. We were talking about having kids, and you, being so supportive, were always finding ways to afford it. But one Monday morning, I was called into HR and told they were cutting jobs because of some big contracts being lost. Most departments were affected, but in marketing, they decided to let go of the more experienced and higher-paid staff for cheaper, younger workers. I lost my job. I came home that night in tears, and when I was about to tell you, you were excited about plans for kids, and I just lost my courage. I was about to reply, but she placed her hand on mine. "I'm not saying it was your fault at all. What I mean is that I lost my courage and didn't want to let you down." I said softly, "You could never let me down. You must have known I would have supported you." She nodded. "I knew you would, but part of me felt ashamed. I was a grown woman who couldn't support herself." She squeezed my hand tightly. "This doesn't reflect how I feel about you. It's my own struggles. I knew back then that you would do anything to help me, but my shame and insecurity kept me from accepting it." She took another long drink. I've spent many hours in therapy trying to understand why my mind thought going back to that job was a good idea. Even when you found out, I struggled to see why you were hurt. I remember sitting alone after you left thinking, but it's just a job. Eventually, my therapist helped me rephrase the question to help me understand the core problem. I will share more about that later if you're still here. She smiled at me, trying to read my mood. I stayed quiet, waiting for answers to my many questions. Anyway, for some reason I can't explain, I thought returning to the film industry would be a quick solution. I planned to do a few films while searching for a better job. What harm could it do? She laughed without joy. Well, it caused a lot of harm. I called a director I knew from college. He was excited to have me act again. The first film was just a few scenes with a man and a woman, and it took 3 days to film. The money from that would cover my bills for several months, so I didn't plan to do more. But the director really wanted me to keep going. In my confused mind, I thought, why not do a few more films and have enough money to relax for a year? I believed with that money I could find a good job and maybe treat you. The next film was my first time working with another woman, which scared me since I never had a real interest in women. After that scene, I found myself wanting to do more, not just for the money, but for the excitement. I know this is going to hurt, and I can't explain why I thought this way, but during all that time I never thought to tell you. It wasn't that I meant to hide it, it just didn't cross my mind. Some part of me was probably trying to protect you, but I buried it deep. Now, she was crying and trembling as she reached for a drink. When I came home and saw myself on TV, it felt like everything fell apart. I must have fainted because the next thing I knew, I was on the sofa with you trying to give me water. She looked at me and winced at seeing tears on my face. She reached over to wipe them away. I'm so sorry. You can't imagine how much I regret getting into that situation and hurting you. After you left, I was a mess. I couldn't understand why you left or thought it was a big deal. At the time, it just seemed like a job to me. When you told me I had cheated, I didn't get what you meant. It took hitting rock bottom for me to see things differently. I'm sorry for adding more to your burden, but everything changed one night a few months after you left. Even though I still didn't see the problem, I was alone. I had lost everything, and without you, there was no reason to get out of bed or eat or live. I was sitting at the kitchen table, arranging sleeping pills in a straight line. A bottle of vodka was in front of me, and I was about to take my first pill when Alana walked in through the back door and came right to my side. She didn't shout or yell. Instead, she wrapped her arms around me. After some encouragement, which included her and Mike urging me, I agreed to go for a 72-hour mental health evaluation. Those 72 hours turned into 10 days, but they were the most revealing days of my life. On the first day, I felt completely lost and overwhelmed. I was in so much pain that everything seemed dark and hopeless. By the third day, I began to open up to the therapist about my feelings. Then, on the fourth day, something clicked for me. The therapist wanted me to understand why you might feel upset about my choices. She asked about your job, and I told her that you didn't meet clients too often. She asked if I trusted you, and if I ever doubted your honesty or loyalty. I told her I trusted you completely, knowing you would never do anything to harm me. She then had me imagine a scenario where you had to meet clients more often, but everything else in our life was still perfect. I knew you hadn't done anything to make me worry. But then, out of nowhere, someone told me that your client meetings weren't as innocent as I believed. I did some digging and found out that you were involved with wealthy business people to secure deals. Her words made me furious, and I just wanted to lash out. When I confronted you, you said you didn't understand why I was upset since it was just work. I became so angry that I tossed a book across the room. An orderly started to come toward me, but the therapist stopped him. She let me express my anger for a while before she changed everything. In a calm but firm voice, she asked, "Why is what he is doing different from what you did?" At that moment, it felt like my mind broke. I suddenly realized your perspective. I had betrayed you multiple times, breaking promises I made. I was heartbroken, unable to understand why I would hurt the only person I ever truly loved. For the rest of day 5 and most of day 6, I lay curled up in bed, crying for you. But by the 8th day, I started to pull myself out of the darkness. My motivation was to win you back and show you how much you truly meant to me. I spent some time with Alana and Mike and was just about to reach out to you when the divorce hearings became serious. That really knocked me down again, but I decided to try counseling so we could at least be in the same room, and you would have to listen to me. My first individual session was tough but helpful. I shared everything that had happened and what I hoped to achieve. The counselor warned me not to get my hopes up, though. Everything fell apart during our first and only joint session. I wanted to explain everything to you and show you how I had come to terms with my mistakes, but then you took over with your statement, and I realized I had lost you for good. The only thing that stopped me from giving up that night was Alana. She stayed with me while I cried, mourning the loss of my soulmate. In the morning, I decided to move on, and if I couldn't be someone you would be proud of, I would be proud of myself. Carly was crying hard now, so I moved around the table and hugged her. She wrapped her arms around me and seemed to relax in my embrace. I looked up and saw Alana peek into the bar and smile before going back to her group. After what felt like a long time, Carly lifted her head. "Thank you for holding me. It seems strange how much I took this simple act for granted," she said. I got up and went to the bar for more drinks to give myself some time to collect my thoughts. When I returned to my seat, I didn't know what to say after what I had heard. I sat for a moment before asking her what she was doing now. She looked a bit embarrassed and guilty. After I got home from the hospital and things went wrong with the divorce, I promised myself I would never do adult films again. I called Jason, the director, and told him I wouldn't be back. He was understanding but reminded me I was still under contract for one more film. I tried to back out, but the sponsors wanted me as the star and said they would sue me for lost earnings if I quit. With no choice, I went and filmed my last movie. The shoot lasted 3 days, and I felt sick the entire time. I showed up and felt unwell, and after each scene, I would feel worse. After we finished, I spent a week in bed, overwhelmed by the fact that I was still doing something that had almost ruined my life. Anyway, I tried to find a regular job in the following months, but had no luck. Then, while I was feeling down one day, I came up with an idea for an adult series. At this point, my face showed my disappointment, but Carly could see my reaction coming. She shook her head. Don't get me wrong, I had no plan to act again, but I thought the series I wanted to create could be a good way to earn money. I set up a meeting with Jason and Henry, the producer I had worked with many times. I shared my idea and said I wanted to try directing this series. They both liked the idea, but they were unsure about my directing skills. Jason agreed to help me with the first film in the series, and then we would decide if I could continue. The film was shot over 4 days and became a big success. Now I am about to start directing the 4th film in the series, with 2 more planned. She looked at me with pride in her eyes, but her expression changed when she saw I wasn't as excited. Then she understood why I was not happy for her. "Oh no, I'm sorry," she said. "I got caught up in it. I came up with a new series that I thought would be interesting." I knew that sometimes partners of actors don't know what they do, and that's partly why I didn't mention it before. I thought a series with real couples might be appealing. I researched couples in the industry and brought them in to film some simple scenes together in a caring way. The first film was a big hit and even won an award. Later films included couples exploring new experiences together. I made sure everything was filmed in a respectful and supportive manner. She noticed I was still concerned. "Look, I realize this is part of my life. It may have ended my marriage and cost me the most important person in my life, but it's also given me a way to express myself and a community that believes in me. I know this is a lot for you, and I don't expect you to feel happy about it, but I am finally being honest with myself. If you remember, when I found out about your job, I said I had no problem with anyone working in this field. If I did, that would make me a hypocrite since I also watch adult films. If you are happy and skilled in what you do, then I am happy for you." Carly almost broke down at my response. "I was really scared to tell you about my job. I remember you saying that, but I think it got lost in everything else." We sat quietly for a bit as she collected herself. "I know you have questions and that there are things you have struggled with. Would you like me to try to answer some of them? I'm not sure if it will help, but it might give you some closure." I nodded slowly, expecting her to wait for me to ask. But she continued, "You mentioned being worried that intimacy with you wouldn't be as good. To support my answer, I want to invite you to join me next week. I am filling in for Jason on one of his shoots, and I think seeing how it all works will help you understand better. Some actors may seem to enjoy being intimate on screen, but most do not. It's not as wonderful as it appears. Everyone is focused on getting the best shot for the camera. There are frequent pauses for lighting changes, movements, makeup, and more. You might not believe me, but I can tell you that in all the scenes I have filmed, there were only 2 times when my feelings were genuine. The first was during my very first scene, as the atmosphere and excitement really affected me. The second was during my first experience with a woman. It was new and thrilling, but since then I haven't felt that way again. The only times I can truly say I felt connected were with you." She paused, waiting for me to respond or ask something else. When I stayed quiet, she continued, "You mentioned wondering if I compared you to the actors." She smiled gently. "Yes, I did, every single time, and you always came out on top. I was not comparing you to them. Rather, I compared them to you. I've already said it's not really like having real intimacy, so there's no true comparison. Honestly, during our marriage, I have not been with anyone else, and I can assure you that's still true after our divorce. Before we met, I had brief encounters with a couple of the actors, but I was not impressed. They seemed to think that being in the spotlight was enough and were mainly interested in themselves. For your information, the way things look on screen is just for show. It doesn't mean much to me or to other actresses I've talked with. Yet, male actors often think that's how we want to be treated. Now, about size. I've spoken with others and gathered some opinions based on my directing experience. I have a theory that seems to apply not just to me but to many women. She took a sip of her drink, pausing for a moment, which felt intentional. The size of a man's anatomy in relation to pleasure is relative. For me, and for the women I've asked, there is a size that feels just right, where the pleasure is truly intense. While larger sizes can be interesting at first, that feeling can fade quickly and even become uncomfortable. On the other hand, even the smallest can bring satisfaction if used skillfully. The perfect size, it seems, matches exactly what a woman's partner offers. She noticed my skeptical look and smiled. "I'm serious. For me, the best size for pleasure was you. All the women I've asked feel the same way. I think our bodies adjust to the person we choose. It might help us stay connected, or maybe it's just emotional. I just know that I never felt anything close to what we had when we were together." She became quiet, looking into my eyes with a love that almost made me feel the same way again. We sat in silence for a long time before she suddenly said, "Oh, I remembered another question. You wanted to know about health testing. In my field, everyone gets tested for all the major diseases every 2 weeks, whether they are working or not. When I was active, I made it every 10 days. Interestingly, that was when I thought of you most. I didn't want you to worry about anything. As for pregnancy, I was using birth control diligently." She paused to take a sip. "I can't believe I'm sharing this, but since you left, there hasn't been anyone else." I nodded. "Well, I got rid of all the toys we had except for one. The only one I kept is the one you had made from a mold of yourself." She turned bright red and said, "It gets used a lot. I have to keep batteries on hand. I use it almost every night, sometimes more." We both chuckled at her words. As she spoke, another question popped into my mind. "Did you ever come home from filming and get close to me? Was I just a backup?" She thought for a moment. "Yes, I needed the closeness and warmth only you could give. After I got back from the studio, I made sure to clean up well. I was always careful so that you never felt like you were getting second best. I took great care to be fresh before coming to you." I was a bit fixated on the situation, honestly. Sometimes I had not been able to focus because I cleaned too much and wore myself out. My head was spinning with everything I had just heard, and I needed some time to think about it all. "Carly, thank you for sharing all this. It's a lot to take in, and I think I understand things better now, but I need time to sort it out. You'll go now and think about what you've told me." Carly nodded with a sad look. "I understand. Just let me know if you want to talk more." I walked to the bar to pay my bill before heading to my room. That night, I didn't sleep well at all because my mind was racing with thoughts, trying to fit everything into what I already knew. I left the hotel early Sunday morning, wanting to spend some time at the gym, my calm place where I could think freely. As I was halfway through my workout, my phone rang. I looked down and saw Carly's name. It had been a while since I had seen it. Almost without thinking, I answered the call. "Davy, I just wanted to check in this morning since I shared a lot with you last night." "Hi, Carly. I'm at the gym, trying to keep my thoughts from overwhelming me." "Davy, how about having brunch with me this morning? I'd like to spend some time with you in a lighter place, and you can ask me any questions you might have after last night." Right then, my stomach growled loudly, reminding me I had skipped breakfast. "That sounds good. Where and when?" "We met at Margot's Deli at 11 a.m. I just had enough time to get home, shower, and change before heading back. When I arrived, I saw Carly at a table in the back. She wore a light blue summer dress and had her hair tied back simply. I smiled, knowing she had put effort into looking nice without making it obvious. As I reached the table, I noticed a couple of coffees already there. She smiled back and said, "I just got here, so I thought I'd get the coffee and wait for you." We chatted comfortably while we waited for our food. After we ate, she suggested taking a walk through the park next to the deli. I was a bit thrown off by her idea. I had prepared myself to talk here. I figured Carly was trying to create a more relaxed setting so I would feel at ease. We walked slowly through the park. At one point, she linked her arm with mine, and I didn't pull away. "First, I want to say I'm sorry for sharing so much last night. You gave me a chance, and I wanted to hold on to it tightly." I laughed a little. Yes, it was a bit intense, but I guess it needed to happen for closure. "How are you feeling this morning? Do you have any new questions?" she asked. I shook my head. "No new questions. I'm just trying to understand how this changes what I already know." She was quiet for a moment before trying to lighten the mood. "I did a lot of talking last night while you were quiet. So tell me, how has life been since we parted?" I shrugged. "Not much has changed. I still have the same job, and now I live in an apartment closer to work. Not much else has happened." "Have you been on any dates?" she asked. I shook my head. "Friends set me up on a couple of dates, but they didn't go anywhere. I don't think I'm ready to move on yet." She looked up at me, puzzled. "Why not? You are handsome, smart, caring, and funny. Any woman would be lucky to be with you. I know because I was once that woman." I shook my head again. "I've had some offers. Women at work have shown interest, but I'm not ready to start dating again. The few dates I had didn't go well because I was comparing them to you, and that just didn't work. I think I need more time to figure out what I really want." As I drove home that afternoon, I thought about our brunch at Margot's Deli. Carly's words about my strengths echoed in my mind. Her suggestion of another walk lingered with me too, a sweet memory mixed with uncertainty. During our park stroll, the sunlight filtered through the leaves above, creating shifting shadows on the path. That casual outing had begun as a way to discuss her past and present in a lighter setting. But now, it felt heavy. As we walked, her hand had brushed against my arm, and she had suggested, "Maybe we could walk again soon." It was nice, wasn't it? I nodded, trying to hide the surge of nostalgia that came over me. Memories of our happier times bubbled up uninvited soft whispers during quiet evenings, and laughter that once filled our lives together. Those moments felt distant now, like echoes in the past. I pushed my feelings aside, trying to keep my voice steady. "Maybe," I said, though doubt lingered in my mind. Why even think about it? The brunch had reopened old wounds I'd tried to forget, and as we parted ways, she walked to her car, giving me one last look while I pretended to stay calm. I ended up alone on a nearby bench, clenching my fists as my heart raced. Memories of our time together faded into lonely images, reminding me of the emptiness I felt since the divorce. What was this feeling inside me? It wasn't love in the true sense, not the deep connection we once had. It felt more like a faint echo of that love, pulling me back and challenging the walls I had built over the past 2 years. I needed clarity, something to hold on to before these lingering thoughts grew too loud and overwhelmed the progress I had made. That evening, my apartment felt too quiet, the kind of silence that made every stray thought seem louder. The notebook from my therapy session sat untouched on the shelf, something I had picked up months ago after those joint counseling sessions with Carly. It was my way of sorting through my thoughts without anyone else's opinions. But tonight, writing a few notes didn't ease my restlessness. The evening light streamed in, casting long shadows across the floor that seemed to reach out to me. I poured myself a drink and settled into my armchair, staring at the blank page before finally calling Mike. He answered quickly, his voice rough but friendly. "Hey there, brother. You sound like something's bothering you." We talked for a while, and I shared my confusion from the brunch. I hesitated before mentioning inviting Carly out again. The brunch stirred up more feelings than I expected, I admitted, leaning back in my chair. She's working with new people and making real progress in her directing. It feels like she's completely transformed while I'm stuck looking back. Mike watched me on the video call, his protective side from past investigations kicking in like a reflex. "You've already rebuilt your life. You can't let her or her new friends drag you down again. Do you really think reaching out will change the past? Shut that door, Davy, or it'll just tear you back down." His voice became serious, and I could see the concern in his eyes. I nodded, but his words hit hard, making me feel a mix of thankfulness and doubt. "Maybe finding closure is what I need this time. Just one more meeting. That's all I'm thinking about." He grunted, clearly unsure, shaking his head. "Fine, but if it doesn't go well and you end up feeling low again, don't say I didn't warn you." His words lingered as I finished the call, and with a deep breath I sent a message to Carly. Her reply came quickly, full of enthusiasm that both eased and worried me. The next day, the cafe buzzed with talk as steam curled from our mugs. Carly arrived with a smile that was careful but real. Our conversation meandered through feelings that still lingered, mixed with hints about her new partners doing interesting things. "I've been keeping busy," she said, stirring her coffee slowly, her eyes catching mine. "People in the field are helping me take on bigger projects," I asked lightly, my voice showing my curiosity. "Sounds like good progress. Is there anyone special pushing that forward?" Carly answered with vague hope, our hands brushing accidentally on the table, adding to the unspoken tension between us. "Just supporters, you know, keeping things mostly professional." She paused, her eyes drifting away for a moment. "But why the invite? I thought you wanted space after brunch." I leaned closer, feeling a bit confrontational as old doubts came back. "Space? Sure, but hearing about your supporters makes me rethink things. What's really going on with them?" She moved in her seat, a bit defensive but calm. "There's nothing to hide, Davy. They're just opportunities, not to replace what we had." Our goodbye nod was heavy and her last look tugged at feelings I thought I'd let go of. The conversation left me uneasy, with questions growing like shadows in the fading light of the evening. Later that night, in the soft light of my apartment, I went back to my notebook. Writing alone had become my lifeline after the joint sessions with Carly had ended so dramatically. Those quiet moments let me sort through the feelings that had come back, without her presence making things harder. I remembered the therapist's advice from our last session, urging me to look closely at these feelings as signs of unmet needs. I voiced the envy that felt like a whisper in the quiet room. "It's not anger anymore," I said to myself, leaning back on the couch. "More like whispers of what could have been." Her associates, they touched on feelings I didn't know I still had. I imagined my therapist nodding, jotting down notes as she asked, "And these recent hints from her associates, as you called them, how do they resonate with you? Are they reminders of feeling not enough?" Her question went deep, bringing back old insecurities I'd tried to set aside with therapy and time. We had practiced visualizing boundaries as strong walls, unbreakable and firm. "See them solid and secure," she had once guided me. Now, when I closed my eyes, I could see those walls rising tall against the strong pull of the past, keeping away unwanted thoughts. "Old marks fading away," I whispered, realizing how the heart-shaped birthmark had started this whole journey for me. It had changed from a sign of hurt to one of freedom and letting go. As I finished that mental exercise, the lively sounds of the city outside my window felt like a push forward, something I wanted to embrace. The notebook in my pocket was like a shield, a real reminder of my growth. Still, the events of the day lingered in my mind, telling me to stay alert. The delicate peace I had made with my doubts held for now, but I knew that if I wasn't careful, those feelings of longing could become too loud, pulling me back to a past I had worked hard to leave behind. The therapist's office had become a comfortable place for me, a weekly habit I had relied on since those tough joint sessions with Carly months ago. Each visit helped me lower the emotional walls I had slowly rebuilt after our separation. The soft light from the lamp on her desk cast gentle shadows in the room, making it feel safe and inviting, like a quiet space where I could share my thoughts from recent conversations without fear of judgment. I settled into the worn leather chair as she helped me see these lingering thoughts as signs of growth instead of obstacles. Pictures played in my mind like scenes from a half-remembered movie, each session slowly loosening the tight hold of the past. "These associates of hers, they're not threats," she said, her voice steady and clear. "Or are they just excuses for feeling stuck?" I shifted in the chair, her question landing heavily in my chest. "Maybe both," I said, my words coming out more weighty than I meant. That brunch with Carly opened up feelings I thought I had put away. Now, hearing about her progress felt like looking in a mirror. It showed me how stuck I've been. She leaned in, her eyes strong yet kind, looking right at me. "So face it, Davy. You can't grow if you just stay alone. You have to try new things or you'll be stuck wondering, what if, forever." Her words stayed with me as I walked out of the office, the notebook in my pocket feeling heavier than usual. Its empty pages seemed to urge me to take action, even though caution had become my normal way of living. Stepping out into the busy street, I sensed a change, like the first crack in a dam, suggesting it might be time to stop hiding and start building something new. The office offered a good place to put her advice to the test, a shared space where work could connect with personal moments without too much risk. It began simply a colleague casually nudging me during a late project meeting, introducing me to Sarah with a knowing look as she shared smart ideas about client projects that broke through my tiredness. She showed confidence and clarity, standing out in the midst of numbers and deadlines. A week later, we went out for the first time, the candlelit charm of a quiet bistro near the office, easing the tension of what could have turned into just another awkward attempt at connecting after my divorce. Over plates of pasta and glasses of red juice, Sarah opened up about her own past hurts, her words aligning with the thoughts that had been swirling in my head. "He vanished after making big promises," she said, pausing her fork mid-air to look at the candlelight between us. "I had to rebuild my life all on my own, bit by bit." The gentle brush of her fingers against mine as she reached for the salt created a tiny thrill. "That sounds familiar," I said suddenly, the similarity hitting too close to home. "Betrayal changes you, right? Every move forward feels risky." She tilted her head, a fire in her eyes as she examined me. "Then why not move on now? I can see it in your eyes you're thinking about past mistakes." I met her eyes, feeling an ironic twist inside me. "I admit it," I said with a slight smile, "but you seem steady." No drama, no hidden troubles, just honest and real. She smiled softly but pressed on with that same spark. "Steady wins the race. Show me sometime." The challenge hung in the air between us, a pathway created by the therapist's encouraging words to something real and close, a way forward that felt less weighed down by the past. As the weeks went by, our connection grew in a natural way. Moments flowed together like a collection of memories, walks under starry skies, where the city lights sparkled like distant hopes, mixed with shared fears over coffee or peaceful evenings. One night, while walking by the river, Sarah shared her dreams. The water gently touched the shore as her arm linked with mine in a way that felt comforting and exciting. "I want stability, Davy, not constant storms," she whispered, her usual confidence cracking just a bit. I replied with part of the truth, keeping the deeper feelings about my past hidden for now. Thoughts of Carly's lively affection tried to surface, her old claims of us being the perfect match clashing with Sarah's calm presence. This contrast both worried and reassured me, showing me how far I had come while reminding me of the old wounds that still hurt. 2 weeks later, applause in a meeting marked a personal success. My presentation won us a big client, and my team celebrated, hoping for promotions like confetti in the air. The cheers faded into hugs that night, hinting at the growing closeness I had avoided for so long. "To breaking barriers," Sarah said at dinner, playfully nudging my foot under the table. "And maybe a few walls along the way?" I laughed, but the reality-stung reminders of spontaneous trips with Carly came to mind, now seen as warnings of a life I had moved on from. "One step at a time," I replied, pulling her closer, feeling my guarded heart slowly warming as if the ice around it was finally starting to melt under the light of something new and hopeful. The elegant setting of the gala buzzed with energy, a bridge between tech and creativity, where my invitation came from a shared client, pulling my world back into contact with Carly's again. At first, I watched her from afar, my jaw tensing as I noticed her with a charming man, his arm around her waist. Their laughter filled the room too easily among the mingling crowd. I felt a chill of irony wash over me as I saw her so-called friends, now smiling and charming, making fun of the progress I had been trying to build with Sarah. My fists tightened beneath the table, hidden from sight as I tried to stay calm. Soon I crossed paths with them at the bar. Our brief conversation hid the tension beneath the surface. "You look good," I said, my words sharp as he nodded with a sense of pride, her eyes showing surprise and recognition. "Davy," she said, her voice steady but hinting at something deeper. "Didn't expect to see you here." Her friend Ethan smoothly jumped in with confidence. "It's a small world for networking, right?" I forced myself to stay polite, but I felt a rising urge to confront them. "Looks like you're doing well. Just be cautious about the company you choose. It can say a lot about you." Carly stiffened, her gaze narrowing. "Jealousy doesn't suit you anymore, Davy." Ethan laughed, and his hand tightened around her waist, which made me uncomfortable. Soon after, I stepped out to the balcony, feeling the cool wind swirl around me as my mind raced a jumble of memories flashing before me. Our brunch talks blended with old fragments of a painful discovery, the therapy sessions I had imagined crumbling under the weight of these feelings. "Not again," I whispered to the night sky, gripping the railing until my knuckles turned white. At that moment, I knew I had to break free from these painful reminders. I wrote a message to Carly with a sense of purpose, my fingers steady on the screen. "I need space. Let's end this for good." Sent. When I returned to the venue, I saw Sarah across the room, her wave drawing me in like a lifeline. I took a deep breath, feeling like I was turning a page. "Tough crowd out there?" she asked later, her voice showing curiosity and support as we shared a quiet drink. "Old memories coming back," I replied, taking her hand to show I meant it. "But I'm moving forward now, making a choice for us." The time I spent on the balcony that night stayed with me. The cool air and the decision I made for Carly marking a line I wanted to keep, even as the curiosity that lingered tried to blur it in the weeks that followed. Those days passed with small wins in the boardroom. I had successful presentations and deals were made with firm handshakes that felt like progress. Evenings were calm and comforting with Sarah, her steady presence grounding me against the chaos I had noticed at the event with Carly. Her warmth brought a sense of normalcy, filled with late-night dinner chats, her laughter replacing the doubts I once had. However, as I settled into this new rhythm, whispers began to surface in the industry, subtle at first, like soft ripples in a quiet pond. A client casually mentioned during a meeting, "Heard there's some trouble brewing in the creative world, nothing clear, but enough to notice." It was vague enough for me to brush off at first, just a passing comment in the buzz of negotiations, but it sparked my curiosity. It connected back to what Carly had hinted at during our tense talk at the cafe. Soon after, an anonymous tip appeared in my inbox late one evening as I reviewed work documents. "Her new ally's not what he seems," check the forums. My heart raced as I read it, drawing me into a world of speculation I hadn't asked for but couldn't ignore, leading me to the collaborators Carly had spoken about optimistically. The world Carly was part of echoed in my mind through snippets Alana shared during our occasional calls, her voice filled with concern as if she were tiptoeing through a field of hidden dangers. "She's getting serious about this partnership," Alana noted one afternoon, her voice heavy with caution. reflecting the protectiveness she'd shown when everything first started to fall apart. Ethan appeared in those stories like a shadow, his feedback coming off as sharp yet flattering through our shared contacts in the production scene. "Great direction," he reportedly told Carly after one of her shoots, the words making their way back to me with an air of insincerity. Alana explained that the talks after work soon turned into personal invitations, mixed with ambitions that hinted at something beyond just professional cooperation. In my mind, I could picture quiet places like scenes from a softly lit movie, the sound of glasses clinking in fancy bars, growing flirtations over shared thoughts, each moment building up doubts like my own uncertainty with Sarah. Ethan promised to help take her ethical film series to new levels, but there were hidden dangers behind his words, as Carly's cautious feelings came through in a late-night text to Alana. She later told me during one of our calls, "He wants more mainstream reach," he says. And her worries were clear even in her quick messages, showing someone caught between excitement and concern. I wrestled with my feelings. Was my renewed worry just jealousy, lingering from our past, or a real concern for the woman I once cared for deeply? The passion she showed when we talked about her directing felt tangled with this mysterious person, planting seeds of doubt that conflicted with the stability I was trying to create elsewhere. Heavy talks about our values started to challenge everything, with cracks in Ethan's character showing up after Alana described an overheard call during our coffee chat one afternoon. Her eyes narrowed as she shared, "She confronted the team, scripts were crossing lines she wasn't okay with." Ethan's support in those moments felt empty against the manipulations I started to see, using weaknesses as tools in a subtle power game. Bits of information spilled out from a leaked memo online, linking to the whispers of sabotage that began affecting my work life. Soft murmurs in those online discussions highlighted the irony, with Ethan reportedly brushing aside worries nonchalantly, saying, "Business needs flexibility, adapt, or be left behind." The warmth of our old friendship felt comforting during Jenny's unexpected call a few days later, her advice sharpening my focus. "Cut ties with anyone who holds you back." "Davy, she's really into this guy," Jenny said, steady yet urgent, her voice breaking through the noise on the line. "Ethan's using her past against her, twisting her values to control her." Her words strengthened my resolve, and I asked back, my tone sharpening with old protective instincts, "You mean her films from before?" "How's he using that against her?" Jenny asked sharply. "It's like a weapon, plain and simple. It began with promises of better chances, but now it's all about controlling her, taking advantage of her weaknesses to keep her in line." Her words hit me hard, reminding me of my own past when I found out Carly's secrets. But I pressed on, needing to understand more. "And how is she handling it? She's not giving in, right?" Jenny sighed, a mix of relief and worry in her expression. "No, but it's taking an emotional toll. I told her directly, don't get involved without clear boundaries." As we shared our stories, I started to see patterns I hadn't noticed before. I thought about Ethan's influence on Alana based on her latest update, noting how Carly mentioned her group sessions as a sort of support. "She's taking it all in now," Alana shared during our talk, the insights from those sessions filling Carly with new energy. The conversation erupted like a dam breaking. "The exploitation stops here," Carly had declared in a message to me afterward. "Cut ties. He couldn't handle the pressure." His defenses fell apart, and Carly chose to remain firm in her independence, the lessons she learned becoming clear in her words. "What happened?" I texted back, needing clarity to make sense of it all. "Accusations were thrown from both sides," she replied quickly, her message filled with both triumph and weariness. "At first, he tried to brush it off as just business and turned it back on me. But I called it what it was, using me, taking advantage of my past. No way, not again." Her strength shone through her response, a bright light of resilience that reflected my own boundaries with Sarah, showing how empowerment can spread like ripples from a stone dropped in water. That night, as I sat quietly in my apartment, my resolve grew stronger. I saw how her journey highlighted the path I needed for myself, one free from the hidden ambitions that had almost trapped her. Carla's struggle wasn't just hers alone. It echoed my own life, too, reminding me that real growth means letting go of toxic connections, no matter how appealing they may seem at first. The strength in Carly's message resonated in my mind, encouraging me in my own journey with Sarah as I pushed forward despite the old shadows trying to come back. I've learned that whispers can spread quickly, like cracks in ice on a pond. It all started with quiet conversations in the office, whispers that broke the usual rhythm of clicking keyboards and phone calls. At first, the gossip was slow, a glance from a junior engineer during a morning meeting, a conversation that stopped when I walked in, my coffee mug in hand. I thought I was being overly cautious, that my past was making me too sensitive. But then Andy came to my office one afternoon, looking nervous and avoiding my gaze. "Davey, about that old video," he said hesitantly, rubbing the back of his neck. "It's making the rounds again, twisted into some bad talk. I promise I didn't share it with anyone new." I leaned back in my chair, feeling upset as I recalled the gala and Ethan's annoying presence that had bothered me so much. "Who did it then?" I asked sharply. "This isn't just a coincidence, Andy." He squirmed a bit but spoke honestly, his voice quiet. "There are forum posts pointing to some of our competitors they might be trying to gain an edge, maybe targeting her but dragging your name into it too." Everything clicked together in my mind. Ethan was acting out after being rejected, using old issues to hurt others. I felt a wave of anger, not just for myself, but for how this affected the peace I had been trying to build. That afternoon, I spoke to the team with calm authority in the meeting. The conference room was filled with expectant faces as I stood at the front, my voice steady despite my inner turmoil. "What's out there," I said, looking each person in the eye, "is just noise-old issues meant to distract us. We need to focus on our work, not these distractions intended to bring us down." Heads nodded in agreement, some looking sympathetic. But the tension remained when one engineer asked carefully, "Boss, is it true this stuff affects morale?" I met his gaze firmly. "True or not, it doesn't change what we need to do here. If anyone wants to question my leadership based on old rumors, feel free to leave." The room went quiet, my words hitting hard, and as the meeting ended, I felt a small win in taking back control. In my apartment, the quiet made me think deeply, helping me deal with the echoes of doubt while I looked online at the forums. I found comments that mirrored my own struggles with Sarah. As I browsed through the anonymous posts, I saw twisted stories and old clips of Carly's videos with hurtful captions that included my name as part of the insults. This hurt a lot, reopening old wounds I thought were healed, but it also strengthened my resolve, reminding me why I had chosen to keep my distance. During our next call, Alana shared some documents that caught my interest. Her voice was urgent as she explained how Carly discovered Ethan's clever attacks on her. He tried to use these charges as a protective shield, which Carly rejected, saying, "Integrity over gain, no matter the cost." Alana described how Carly found hidden clauses in the fine print, using her past against her, showing how Ethan twisted her weaknesses into traps. "He called it protection," Alana said, capturing Carly's anger in a way that made me picture the situation clearly. There was comfort in sharing this with Alana. It showed just how Carly had cut ties with Ethan decisively. "We're done," Carly told him, her voice firm even in a tough moment. "You used my weaknesses to control me." He fired back, defensive. "Business is tough, you should have known that." "Not with me," Carly replied sharply, their exchange building with tension, yet she remained strong and unyielding. I pressed Alana for more details, worried about Carly's safety. "Is she okay? Is there any trouble coming her way?" Alana paused, her silence heavy with meaning. "For now, yes. But he's dangerous. He could strike out if he feels threatened." The irony wasn't lost on me. His manipulation reflected the troubles in my own life, heightening the ethical challenges I faced. After hanging up, my determination felt strong, like steel shaped by heat. This reckoning wasn't just about Carly. It was pushing me to face how our lives were still linked, even after separating. In the following days, I calmly turned down any lingering messages from Carly. I decided to focus on what really mattered in my life as her notes became less frequent. When she asked, "Heard the news about the leak? Can I help?" I replied politely but clearly. "I've taken care of it," I typed, pausing to choose my words. Focus on your projects. Stay away from this mess. Carly shared her exciting plans with me in her replies, expressing a quiet determination that showed she was finding her way again. Her words told a story of progress through our texts and the updates I got from Alana. New ideas sent to producers, changes made in her directing contracts, and a new series approved that highlighted respect and honesty. As we exchanged messages, there was a tension in the air, reflecting my own thoughts. I envisioned a cautious future with Sarah, our late-night talks blossoming into dreams of a stable life. In contrast, Carly's words showed her strong independence, saying things like, "I'm on my own now, but I'm tougher than ever." "You're bouncing back quickly," I texted one day, surprised at my own admiration. "Feeling jealous?" she replied playfully, though I could sense deeper feelings just below the surface. "Not jealous, just cautious," I reassured her. "Don't let the past bring you down again." The two paths between us seemed stretched tight, creating a sense of expectation. Our lives brushed against each other without collisions, and the ripples from the recent troubles began to settle into a fragile peace, one that felt hard-earned and uncertain. In those quiet moments, I understood how far we had each traveled, our separate journeys not leading to a reunion, but to a shared respect for the experiences that had shaped us. The calm that settled over my exchanges with Carly held steady for months. I had built a distance to make room for Sarah's warmth to deepen in my life. Her gentle inquiries about my hesitations turned into plans shared over late-night coffees that lasted into the early morning. It felt comforting her hand in mine as we talked about weekend trips and future hopes, her consistent presence wearing down the walls I had built and helping me believe in a simple, real connection again. But friendships have their own force, an unseen pull that can bring people back together when you least expect it, often at the most inconvenient moments. The invitation for Jenny and Steve's vow renewal arrived in the mail, bringing back memories of my past. Their strong relationship reminded me of how my path once closely intertwined with Carly's. Jenny, always excited to connect people, wrote a note on the card that said, "Can't wait to celebrate with friends, it's been too long." The event was at a lovely estate just outside the city, filled with green lawns and beautiful tents, where laughter and the sound of clinking glasses filled the air under a clear sky. As guests arrived, warmth spread among familiar faces, old college friends and those from double dates. It created a mix of memories that felt both sweet and charged. Carly was bound to be there, and when she showed up, the atmosphere shifted. She drew quiet glances amid the cheerful toasts and good wishes. Sarah's grip on my hand tightened as we moved through the crowd, her fingers squeezed with protectiveness and curiosity, her voice low but tense. "That's her, isn't it? The one from the gala?" I nodded, feeling a familiar pull as if returning to a past I had tried to forget. As the afternoon went on, conversations grew closer, filled with unspoken histories. Toasts were exchanged freely, and paths crossed near the open bar, where the smell of fresh drinks mixed with flowers. "Davy," Carly said, her voice steady but surprised, which matched how I felt. "Didn't think we'd see each other again so soon, small world, right?" Next to me, Sarah's grip tightened, her tone sharp as she cut in. "Worlds? Or unfinished business that just won't stay quiet?" Carly met her gaze boldly. "It's just shared history, nothing more." I quickly stepped in to keep peace, saying, "Congratulations on your new projects. I heard they're really taking off." The tension in the air felt heavy, and unspoken issues lingered, making the cheerful atmosphere feel fragile under the weight of what was left unsaid. As the afternoon faded and the sun lowered, casting long shadows over the estate, the garden nook became a quiet retreat from the crowd. It was a hidden spot where the light from lanterns danced gently in the breeze, while the distant sounds of the party created a soft background for a moment of honesty between Carly and me. We stumbled upon this place almost by chance, stepping away from the main gathering to catch our breath. But once we began talking, it felt like a long, unraveling thread, pulling at the loose knots we both had. Carly shared her struggles with Ethan in quiet tones, revealing a side of her that I hadn't seen in years. Her voice was low, but carried hints of the anger she had fought behind closed doors. I suggested practical advice based on my own experiences. Recognize the patterns before they catch you. Don't let them decide what you do next. He started with promises, she confided, looking into my eyes in the dim light. He said it would be a big opportunity, but then it turned into something controlling, using my work against me to keep me in line. In our quiet talk, we began to appreciate what we had both faced. Old burdens lifted as we recognized the similarities in our struggles. I saw parallels between her issues with Ethan and my own past troubles at work, and we found common ground in the scars we carried from being manipulated. It sounds like he took advantage of your weaknesses, just like those rumors at my job did, I remarked, wanting to understand more. You need to gather proof, make it known before it spreads and affects everything else. She responded with determination, a spark in her eyes as she leaned closer. Why help now, after you've wanted space from me? I took a slow breath and met her gaze. Because situations like this, they don't resolve themselves alone. You need someone to help you see it. And honestly, watching you face this reminds me of my own journey, the one I had to take without looking back. Carly expressed her gratitude softly as we peeled away old illusions and doubts. Her earlier reassurances during brunch about feeling satisfied were now seen as lessons we both had learned through tough experiences. You were right to question everything back then, she said softly, her voice trembling just a little. But I've faced it directly, no more hiding behind excuses or secrets. We shared a moment of honesty, letting go of our burdens together. This quiet forgiveness grew naturally between us, a simple understanding that we had both come through the pain and had grown stronger. As we stepped back into the dimming light of the estate, the long shadows stretched across the lawns, almost reaching for closure. I held on to my present connections, feeling Sarah's arms slip around mine like a steady anchor, keeping me grounded. Carly moved towards her future, her horizons widening with each step, as she said a goodbye that felt both final yet open-ended. Take care of everything you've built, she said briefly, her words signaling closure without needing a long goodbye. You too, I replied, turning fully to Sarah. Her concerned gaze searched mine, and she pressed, Tell me about that conversation in the garden now, before I start worrying. I faced her directly, my voice steady as I pulled her aside for a moment. Old issues are finally settled. She wanted advice on her situation. I gave it, nothing more. But us? That's what really matters now. She searched my face, her tension easing as she began to understand. So, no more looking back? No more what-ifs? I confirmed with a kiss, pulling her closer. None at all, I'm fully committed. The horizon called to us as the event wrapped up, our steps matching in rhythm while the crowd dispersed, each person finding their own path in the freedom we had all fought for. It felt like a big change, like turning the last page of a long chapter, allowing me to step into the brightness of what was ahead. Months flowed by smoothly after Jenny and Steve renewed their vows. The comforting talk in that sunlit garden marked a point in time that let my life with Sarah grow deeper. Her steady presence turned my careful steps into a shared journey. During one of our quiet walks by the river, with the water softly flowing under a canopy of autumn leaves, Sarah surprised me with her proposal. Her ring was a simple band of white gold that sparkled in the waning light, representing the challenges we had both faced and turned into strengths. She stopped walking, turned to me with a nervous smile that lit up her face, and pulled a small box from her pocket. Davy, we've built so much together, why not make it official? Her simple words carried a weight that filled the room, and in that moment my last bits of doubt faded away. I felt a certainty I thought I'd lost forever. We exchanged vows in a cozy chapel on the edge of town. Surrounded by a small group of close friends, Mike and Alana smiled happily in the front row, and Jenny and Steve nodded knowingly, having seen our paths come together. I choose you, with all your imperfections, I said, my voice steady as her eyes held mine. Those words took me from the safety of my past struggles to this strong bond we were creating. No more shadows from before, no more looking back at what could have been. She replied softly but fiercely, her strength shining through. Promise? Because I remember those old fears trying to pull us apart. I took her hand firmly, my grip full of meaning. They are gone for good. This is us, moving forward and unbreakable. The reception was simple, filled with laughter and toasts that honored not just our love, but the strength we had gained from the challenges we faced individually, which now united us. Joy filled our lives in the months that followed. The first exciting ultrasound images appeared on the screen at the doctor's office, showing tiny heartbeats that made everything feel so real. We spent late nights on the couch, discussing names while baby books surrounded us, her hand resting gently on her belly as we laughed over silly ideas, finally deciding on ones that felt just right. Our apartment changed over time, with walls painted in soft colors and a crib set up where my office used to be. Soft lights added to create a warm space for our growing family. One calm morning, we took a quiet moment at my parents' graves, the grass damp with dew. I whispered thanks for the strength they had given me, feeling that the new life we were bringing into the world symbolized a continuation beyond past hardships. Finally, the day we had been waiting for arrived, filled with nervous energy in the delivery room. The beeping of machines matched Sarah's heavy breaths as she held my hand tightly during the waves of pain. "This hurts more than I expected," she said, her voice filled with determination as sweat glistened on her forehead. "You better make it worth it, Davy, every single push." I nodded, wiping her forehead with a cool cloth. My voice was strong, even though I felt anxious inside. "We're in this together, every step. You can do this, and so can we." The first cry filled the air, a joyful sound, as tiny fingers wrapped around mine. The doctor placed our newborn in Sarah's arms, bringing a sense of completion that filled the room with happiness. Holding our child for the first time, I felt a shift, not just in our lives, but also in the legacy we would pass on, free from the burdens of the past. Carla's achievements were making headlines everywhere. Her projects launched with great success, dominating news feeds and online articles. Award announcements popped up, shining brightly like signs of her hard work. Legal victories after Ethan's troubles, confirming a sense of justice pieced together from court updates and Alana's occasional chats over coffee. "She's doing better than ever," Alana said during one of our meetings, her voice filled with admiration as she showed me a news clip on her phone. I could picture Carly on stage at the gala, confidence radiating from her as she held her award under the bright lights. She spoke about the importance of staying true to oneself, inspiring others in her field. "This award isn't just for me, it's about building something real and respectful," she said, her confidence shining through in the interviews that followed. She talked about staying true to her vision in an industry that often encouraged compromise. Reports later highlighted new projects, fresh ideas, and collaborations built on trust. A quote from one of her colleagues questioned this change. "Is she really setting her own terms now?" Carly's answer, clear and strong, was, "Always no compromises, no looking back." Her successes mirrored my own in quiet ways, distant victories that echoed positively, allowing us both to thrive separately. One crisp morning, a letter from Carly arrived, full of congratulations and goodbyes. The envelope slipped through the mail slot, like the last thread tying together a long story. Sarah and I read it together at the kitchen table, our child's soft coos from the high chair adding a warm background to the moment. "I heard about the family. I'm proud of how far you've come," the letter said, her handwriting steady and familiar. It reminded me of our brunch talks about finding the right path and growing together. "Ethan has faced justice. We learned lessons, and now we can move forward." Sarah read the letter carefully. Her voice was firm as she looked at me, curiosity mixing with determination. Do her words hurt, or bring up old feelings we should talk about? I met her eyes, feeling a sense of release as I folded the letter. "Not really. I'm actually thankful. It helped shape the person you chose to be with, the one standing here today." She crossed her arms, pressing for more with that familiar spark. "Thankful? For the mess that almost crushed you?" I nodded, firm in my belief. That mess ended up strengthening us both. But this? It belongs to us now. Two different views met in the warmth of the kitchen, and the exciting work Carly was doing far away, as we reflected on the lessons we've learned. The flame from a nearby candle caught the letter at Sarah's suggestion, and the ashes blew out the window like secrets finally set free. "No more echoes," Sarah said, reaching for my hand across the table. The horizon looked bright and clear, ready for whatever new days were in store for us.